Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2018 Ford Edge, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit. But before we do that, why don't we just check this out and kind of see how it works. This is a perfect example on how our wiring kit is actually going to work. So we have the left turn signal going on our motorhome, and that is sending that signal to the back of our Edge. And so people are going to know kind of what's going on, you know, and keeping you safe and whatnot. When it comes to wiring kits, this is usually the one I always recommend. I'd say probably 99% of the time. And I say that because once it's installed, you're not even going to know it's there. It looks completely factory, and they're really reliable too. We've had a lot of good luck with these. It's pretty rare that we end up running into an issue, so that's always good, right? And it's super easy to use. So literally once it's on, all you're gonna have to do is go up front and plug your cable into the front of your Edge and to the back of your motorhome. And that's really all there is to it. So nothing complicated or nothing to really figure out there. As opposed to some of the other wiring kits, magnetic lighting, for example, the ones where they actually will stick to your car and you have to run your wires all the way up to your motorhome and plug them in every time. Those work, sure, but they're kind of a pain, you know, because you have to set it up every single time, drape wires all the way up to the front there. Not to mention when you're done, you have to undo it all and then find a spot to store a big bundle of wires and some lights. And as we all know, when you're over the road, storage is a precious commodity. So having a setup like this is just really going to help kind of streamline your whole flat towing process. So before we kind of jump right in, I figured it'd be useful just to kind of refresh yourselves on the main parts that we're going to need to flat tow our Edge down the road in the first place. And you're going to have a total of 5 main components. First one being your base plate, and that's going to provide us with an attachment point. That way we can hook our tow bar up to it. Tow bar is going to be that second component, and this is going to be the physical link that actually connects your Ford to your RV. Third main part will be safety cables, and these are there in the event of an unlikely disconnect or to keep everything paired together. The fourth main component will be the tow bar wiring, and that's just going to transfer the lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Edge, letting everyone know what's going on. And last but not least, the fifth main component will be a supplemental braking system. And what that's going to do is apply the brakes in your Ford whenever you hit the brakes in your coach, helping to bring you to a more complete and predictable stop. Up here in the front, I talked about how easy it is to set up, and all you're going to have to do is plug your cable into the front of your Ford and to the back of your motorhome. That's really all there is to it. Now there are several different kits available, and I just want to kind of go over those and make sure you get the right one. And the main difference is going to be what type of cord you're going to get. And the right one is really just going to depend a lot on your tow bar. So if you have a tow bar like this that does not have channels built into it or anything, you're going to want to get a coiled type cable like this one. So this is super common, 7-way on one end on the motorhome side, 6-way round on the front side. And then for whatever reason, if you want to do a 4-way round and 7-way, you can use this one. That's another kit as well, but my thought is if you're going to go through the trouble to hook everything up, you might as well just have the 6-way if you ever want to use other accessories or whatever. That'll work out a little bit better. And then if your tow bar has channels in it, okay, so things that are on the side here designed to run your cables and everything through. If you have that style, you're going to want to get the kit that either has a completely straight cable like this one, a 7 to 6. And then there's also a hybrid type one as well, which is straight, and then at the very end it's coiled. And I'd suggest that one on this Ford Edge. Really probably not a huge deal, but if you have a lot of space between the motorhome and your vehicle, this one's a little bit longer. I'll give you a little extra length there. And then probably one of the least common ones is this 4-way flat to 4-way flat. If you have a older motorhome or something and you don't have a 7-way, this will at least get you going, at least get your signals back and everything else. And there's one kit that I like to kind of just say it comes with the bare bones. Essentially just the wiring and the diodes. It doesn't come with a connector plug or your cable. And that's an option for those of you that end up picking up a more premier type tow bar. A lot of them will come with the connector plug and the cable with that tow bar. So for example, the Roadmaster Nighthawk is just one that comes to mind. And so if you have something like that, you just want to get that bare bones type kit, because you don't need extra stuff, right? So it'll save you a little time and energy there. But you know, with that said, at the end of the day, when it comes to getting those lighting signals to the back of your Ford, like I said earlier, this is a kit that I recommend all the time. It just flat out works and is easy to set up. So what more can you really ask for? As far as the installation goes, this one, you know, it's really not too bad. It is time consuming though, just having to route all the wires and everything else, but as long as you stay focused, you should be able to get it done. But with that said, why don't we go ahead and hook it up together now. To begin our installation, we're gonna be here at the front of our edge, and obviously we have the front fascia and stuff removed, and we're doing that, it's this way because we're doing this the same time that we're doing our base plate, which is what I suggest doing, just have a lot more space to work. With that said though, first things first, we need to start to hook up our wiring connector. And a piece of advice, if you're installing anything else, so for example, we have our diode wiring and a charge line, since these are going to get routed essentially to the same spot, I would suggest doing these at the same time. It'll save you a little bit of routing and whatnot. So that's what we're doing. But you're going to take the end of the wires and bring them over here to your mounting point. Then you can take the rubber dust boot, slide that over the wires. And then I'm just going to strip back the insulation a little bit, about like that. I'll give these wires a twist. And I'm going to do the same thing for all the wires here. So now we can grab our connector plug and get that hooked up. So these are going to be labeled, and this one's TM for tail light, so the brown wire will go to it. This one's GD for ground, so the white wire will go there. This one is LT for left turn, so the yellow wire will plug into that one, and then RT for right turn, and the green will go into that. So the way these work, there's little set screws. You can take a small Phillips head screwdriver. You want to back these out pretty much all the way. Try not to pull them completely out though, because they're kind of a pain to get back in and find. A lot of times we'll drop them, but we're just going to take the appropriate wire. So we'll start with our tail light, and that'll just plug in there. While you're holding it down, take the set screw and just snug it down. So I'm going to do that same thing for our remaining wires. So this is what the back of the connector is going to look like once you have all your diode wires hooked up. And since we have a charge line, I'm going to get that plugged in next, and then once that's done, we can mount this up and start to route some of our wiring. With everything hooked on up, you can take the dust cover, pop that on, and then at the very end, once everything's installed, I'll come back here, some dielectric grease and sealer, and kind of seal everything up. I like to wait to the end though, that way we know everything's working, but for now, this will work. Go ahead and mount up our connector plug there. Then we can start to route our wires. So it comes out of the back of the plug, just drops through here. And it just kind of continues up, right up through there, where it will go into the engine compartment. So the diode wiring goes up into the engine compartment, like we said, and what I'm going to do is hook up our white wire first. This will be a ground. And it turns out there's a factory ground post right here, so that ought to work out perfect. So just kind of eyeballing the length here. what I'm gonna do is just very carefully cut just that white wire. All right, try not to nick the other ones. And the end that we're gonna hook up will be this side. That's the side that is going to our connector plug up front. So we're going to remove the insulation there. Twist the wire. We're going to take a ring terminal, put that on the bare end of the wire, and crimp it down. And then this stud here, I think this is an 11mm socket. I'm going to remove this, and once I have this out, we can slide that ring terminal over it, and that'll provide us with the ground that we need. Got that out. Take this, run it through there, and simply just reinstall this stud. The rest of the white wire, the other side of it, that was just attached to our bundle of wire, peel that off completely and just hold on to it. We'll use it here in a little bit. But once you have that done, we need to get this underneath the vehicle. Not a ton of room. I just ran it around that side of our battery and kind of shot it straight down along our firewall to the bottom of our car. So underneath of our vehicle now, our wiring drops down, and when you do this, make sure to do your best to avoid any hot or moving parts, particularly in this area, because that's where a lot of stuff's going on. But not too bad under here actually. Just follow these factory lines. I just ran our wiring with those. You can, if you need to, there's a couple of nuts you can pop off of this panel to help kind of pull it down. But I just ran our wiring along here and use some zip ties every now and again to keep it secure. And it kind of just loops around here. I'll kind of go up through this opening. When you get to this point, make sure to go up and over your rear subframe to avoid all these moving parts. And our wire is going to just run along through there where it comes down to here. And what I did once I got to this point, I separated the green wire from our yellow and brown. And the end of that green wire, I taped on that extra piece of white wire. And I did that because this is going to go over to the passenger side. So I just took those two wires and ran them along behind our bumper here on top of our hitch. Be careful in this area too, because your muffler's there, you know. But ran it all the way over where it drops down here, and we're going to start hooking into our factory wiring. Usually you would do this behind the tail light to mount up your diodes and stuff, but there's no room at all. So down here is going to be our best option. That way we don't have to pull our bumper off and all this other crazy stuff. But here's our wire loom. This is going to go straight up. That's the one we're going to be working with. And obviously this had some of this tape on it. I peeled that off so we can work with the wires. But we're going to be working with two of them. One of them will be white with a green stripe, which is this one here. And that's going to control our stop and turn signals. And then for the tail lights, we're going to have a violet wire with a green stripe, which will be this one here that I got in my hand. And so what you're going to do is cut that in half, about halfway, something like that. And then strip back the insulation. Give that a twist. Then you're going to take one of these blue spade terminals, put that on the end of the wire and crimp it down. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other end of our purple and green wire, and once that one's on there, I'll cut our white and green wire in half and crimp them on as well. So we got all these terminals on the ends of the wires, and now you can take your diodes, and I just stuck them together. The sides that have a single terminal, you want to plug that into the side that's going up into the tail light. So these just plug onto there. And then we're just going to go color for color. So this diode has the white and green wire on it. So I'll plug that in under there. And then obviously the other one has our purple and green. So that one will go there. And then I took our new wiring that we ran, stripped all the insulation back. The yellow one, I crimped on a blue terminal. The white and brown wire, you're going to do something a little different. You're going to twist those two ends together. So make sure to get them nice and tight. And you can grab another terminal here, except this one's going to be a little different. It's a yellow one, it's a little bigger. You're going to take both ends, slide that in, crimp it down, and now we can hook these up to our diodes. So since the taillight signal is going to be the violet and green diode, we're going to take that in there and plug it in to that diode. And then with the white and green is going to be our stop and turn, we can take our yellow wire, our new yellow wire, and plug it into that diode. Over here on the passenger side, I essentially did the same exact thing here. Really the only difference is going to be the color of the wires. So over here, your stop and turn signal will be the gray wire with a violet stripe, and the factory taillight signal will be the white wire with the orange stripe. So with that said, you're going to take the new white wire, plug it into the diode that has a factory white wire with orange stripe, and the new green wire is going to plug into the other diode, which is the gray wire with the purple stripe. So now it's a good idea to test your wiring to make sure it's working properly. So I'm just hooked up to a test box here in front that's simulating a motorhome. Chances are good you won't have a test box, so you can use your motorhome, but keep in mind if your motorhome has electrical issues on its own, that can translate over to your vehicle side. But with that in mind, I'm going to turn on our taillights, our left turn signal, our right turn signal, and our brake lights. Now that we've verified everything works, I came back and just used some zip ties and tape and everything just to kind of secure everything down and clean up our install. So now that we have everything installed, I went ahead and put our front fascia back on the opposite way that we removed it, really with one exception, just having to trim it out. So instructions really don't give you a whole lot, so I figured it'd be more useful just to kind of see the finished product, and essentially just have to hold this up and make some marks where you think you need to cut. So I cut out some openings for our base plate. In our case, we have this piece here, which is a plug for a block heater. A lot of people probably won't have that. And then our safety chain tabs come out through the openings. And I just had to cut out some small portions to get our breakaway switch and our wiring connector through. So take your time, hold it up, check it out. You know, when you're cutting, make sure you don't hit any wires or anything. You can use a multi-tool, a pair of snips, cut-off wheel, or a combination of all those tools. But once you figure it out and get everything cut, pop this back on and bolt everything back together the opposite way that we removed it. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit on our 2018 Ford Edge.